Once people were finally able to digest what was undeniably the most shocking announcement of the offseason, that the New England Patriots quarterback of 20 years, Tom Brady, was going to sign to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there was one pressing question that everyone seemed to have. How much control was Tom Brady gonna have with the Buccaneers offense? Because by all accounts, Brady was not jumping ship because he's looking for a better football situation. I mean, you wouldn't just up and leave a team that has presided over the single most dominant stretch of football in NFL history if that were the case. For Brady, it was about trying to win one last Super Bowl his way. It was about seeking refuge from Bill Belichick's totalitarian regime, which you have to think was a risk that number 12 would not have considered taking had there not been some pretty concrete promises made up front by the Tampa Bay brass. People's curiosity surrounding what kind of arrangement Tampa Bay and Tom had made were intensified by the fact that Brady's playstyle on the field was pretty different from the way that the Buccaneers head coach Bruce Arians likes to run an offense. Over the past few seasons, Brady has really settled into a quick-hitting passing game, focused mainly on targeting his running backs in the flats as well as his slot receivers, who would dart around the field running those quick little Wes Welker and Julian Edelman-esque routes. Sure, he would still take a chance or two throwing the ball downfield or hitting a receiver that settled into the soft spot of the zone, but gone were the days of throwing bomb after bomb like he used to when he had the likes of Randy Moss as a target. On the flip side, Bruce Arians is famous for implementing a down-the-field passing game that features all sorts of long developing routes and risky plays. The people wanted to know, who's gonna win out? What would the Tampa Bay Bucs' new-look offense be like? After all, their existing offensive personnel had been with Arians for a couple of years now. And when you have explosive wide receivers like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who are completely able to take the top off of a defense, it's hard to rationalize building your offense around a bunch of screen passes and underneath throws. Most of the uncertainty around Tampa Bay's play calling was cleared up early on though, as Brady and Arians decided on keeping the foundation of Arians' system, so that only Brady needed to do the bulk of the learning, instead of the rest of his offensive teammates, which I have to say was probably the right call. That's not to say that Brady surrendered offensive control though, not by any stretch of the imagination. He still has a huge role in determining what plays are run in which situations. Both he and Arians work together to develop the offensive game plan. And obviously, he has the ability to change a call at the line of scrimmage no matter what. And it seems like so far, there's been a good balance between the two men's preferences when it comes to play calling. The offense had played rather well thus far, and Brady looks sharp. Which, according to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers general manager, Jason Licht, it's exactly what the trio of he, Brady, and Arians set out to do when they first met during the 2020 free agency period. This sort of collaborative effort was exactly what they had in mind, even when they were just having those initial discussions early on in the courtship process. From the jump, all three men were all relatively on the same page. I mean, just look at how Licht recalled their early interactions that dated back even before Brady signed with Tampa Bay. We had a great conversation, Bruce and I, and we talked to Brady for over an hour and a half, Licht recalled during an appearance on ESPN's Get Up. And he made it clear in the conversation that he was very, very interested. It was almost like a recruitment on his part, telling us why it would make sense for him to come to Tampa Bay. The next call we made, we signed him. But it was at that phone call that we realized that we felt like we had him. But just because they had such a lovely initial conversation, and just because the team is winning, does not mean that everything down in Tampa Bay has been rainbows and sunshine since Brady showed up. In fact, behind the scenes, things may be even more contentious between Arians and Brady than we ever could have thought. It didn't take long for trouble to start up in paradise either. I mean, just look at what Arians said after Brady's first game as a member of the Tampa Bay Bucs. One was a miscommunication between he and Mike Evans. He thought Mike was going down the middle. It was a different coverage. Mike read it right. He should have been across his face, but Tom overthrew it. The other one was a screen pass with an outlet called. He threw the outlet, and it was a pick-six bad decision. And Arians' lukewarm comments on his star quarterback did not stop there either. He went as far as questioning the grit and determination of Tom Brady. You know, the guy who was once an afterthought of a sixth-round draft pick and has since turned into the greatest quarterback of all time. Yeah, talk about a bold strategy. Questioning that guy's grit and determination? Yeah, that makes sense. Arians tried to downplay the controversy, telling reporters, "Tom and I are fine. I don't really care what other people think. So it's just what he and I think. We left the stadium fine. We showed up on Wednesday fine. There ain't nothing to talk about." Yeah, Okay, Bruce, the 43-year-old surefire Hall of Famer who left his team of 20 years because he did not feel like he was being fully appreciated doesn't mind you dragging him in the media. Sure. After he cooled off a bit, Arians did try to walk back his comments, which, if you ask me, might have been a top-down order to try and appease Brady. By the time Arians was done backpedaling, he ended up completely changing his tune on the interception in question, changing the narrative to say that the interception was actually the fault of wide receiver Mike Evans instead of Brady. And this right here was the first indication that there may be a power struggle brewing down in Tampa Bay. Arians has continually had to backtrack on his comments about his quarterback in the media, and now because of Brady, it looks like he may have to walk back his comments on another NFL star. That star is Antonio Brown, the troubled but talented wide receiver who shocked everyone by signing with the Bucs following his reinstatement. This announcement wasn't just surprising because people were unsure of whether or not Brown, who had a bevy of ongoing legal battles and social media meltdowns, would even be reinstated to begin with, but also because the wide receiver has a long, tangled past with Bruce Arians. Let's just say the duo has not exactly gotten along all that well. In fact, when it was first rumored that Brown might be reinstated, Arians was quick to downplay the notion that the Bucs would have any interest in signing him.
What's the likelihood AB gets back in Tampa?
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
There you go.
Not going to happen. There's no room.
Yeah.
And probably not enough money, but it's just not going to happen. It's not a fit here.
If he says, I'm coming in on the veteran minimum, coach, I just want to play with Tom, you still wouldn't find a way to get him in?
No.
Is it just because you don't trust what he could do to the culture? Why so steadfast that you would not give it a chance?
Yeah, I just know him, and it's not a fit in our locker room.
So, naturally, everyone was quick to get their jabs in at Arians once the news broke that Tampa Bay had signed Antonio Brown. And the popular belief is that Tom Brady had gotten the final say on this one. It's a tough look for a coach who is supposedly heavily involved in the personnel decisions to get completely overruled by one of the team's players. Although, in fairness to Arians, according to NFL insider Jay Glazer, the coach did leave one small contingency when it came to the prospects of signing Antonio Brown when the topic came up after signing Brady. This was pretty unlikely going into the season, Glazer said. Brown has a history with Bruce Arians. It's not a great history. I actually just got off the phone with Bruce, and early on when Brady signed with the Bucs, he did bring up Antonio Brown. But back then, Bruce Arians told him an empathetic no, unless their wide receiver core got injured. What's happened? Godwin's been hurt, Mike Evans been hurt. Obviously, tight end O.J. Howard went down, so that changed things, according to Bruce. He said, I was open to it if guys were banged up, and, well, all of our guys are banged up. After the dust settled on the AB signing, both Brady and Arians have spoken publicly, albeit in rather different tones. Brady was understandably excited to have the all-pro talent back by his side, saying, he's a tremendous football player. I played with him for a brief period of time. Looking forward to working with him again, to see what role he can come in and play. He's a very hardworking guy. We're all going to go out there on the practice field and do the best we can do, and we're going to see how it all fits together. There's a lot of hard work ahead. Arians, on the other hand, was much more reserved, but far more supportive than he had been in previous conversations, explaining that he thinks Antonio has matured since his suspension, and that, as a believer in second chances, he's happy to provide AB with one, provided he can behave in accordance with the short leash that he will be on. That sure sounds like wishful thinking to me. There are still many questions that need answering. What will AB's role in the Buccaneers offense be? Will the Bruce Arians-Tom Brady power struggle eventually boil over? The jury is still out, but either way, it will be fascinating to see how the rest of Tampa Bay's season will play out, because as it stands, it looks like they may have a huge problem brewing beneath the surface. But how about you? Do you think that the Antonio Brown signing will help or hurt the Bucs? Join us in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.